right, welcome back, everyone. So we're working on our mockup. We're using Bootstrap to mock up. And so we're going to zoom in on the code here. You notice we have an outer div with a class of row. It goes right under this headline here. And that row establishes a grid. And in it, we have basically 3 divs, each with a class of call large 4, call LG4. But in addition to that, notice all 3 of those start with the large 4. But we have now, the first one has a small 6, second one is a small 6, third one is a small 12, and we added a row to it. We've converted that one into a row. And so the end result is that when we look at this and we go to a small size, this is actually extra small. So we go to small size, we have the first 2 small 6, so they each represent 1 row. The next 2 represents a row also, secondary header, secondary header. However, do you notice a problem we have right here? I'm not sure if you can notice this, but this is off. Okay, and so to show you where it's off, I'm going to open up, I'm going to type F12. I'm going to show you the, I just want to use this to sort of hover. When we click on, say, one of the divs, I'm just going to go ahead and click it. Okay. The HTML is going to be on the right, and that's this div right here. When I hover over it, you see that green bar to the left of the text? That represents padding. And so the question is, how much padding is being applied? We have a width here, 50%, and we are floating it to the left. And there it is, padding right, padding left. So it's a 15 pixel padding. And then I hover over the one to the right of it. That one has a pixel right of 15 when I click it, or a padding right, excuse me, pixel. Padding right at 15 pixels also. So what we're just going to do is we're going to double that. But the trick here is that we only want to double it in this one circumstance, when we're in the 2 columns at a small viewing port as opposed to large. And at large, we don't want that because it displayed perfectly large. So what we need to do is we need to add a little CSS. We're going to create a class to sort of offset it. We're going to call it a mini offset. We're going to apply it just to this div only. And we have to figure out the breakpoints. Is it minimum width of 768? You'll notice this is for the when we're at small. And when we're at large, you want to see where large is at. So I'm going to expand that full view. And let's look back at our developer tool. Now minimum width is 1200. So at a minimum width of 1200, we want to have just 15 pixels. And at the 768, which is the smaller size, we're going to make it 30 pixels, like here. Okay, so we go here. We're talking about our row. We have, this is the div that we're referring to. And we're going to just call this mini offset, for lack of a better class. And then we want the minimum width. So to get that, I'm going to go back to my developer tool. There it is. Developer tools. We got to highlight that one more time. And we're looking at media. So I'm going to just copy this right here. I go back to my CSS. I'm going to put it down at the bottom. And then it's the dot mini offset. And we're just going to give it a padding left. We need to add 15 pixels to our already existing 15, which puts it at 30. Notice now that lines up just right. And then we're going to do the same thing at the larger at media side. This time that was 1200 pixels. And we have to do this again, but now it's dot mini offset, and it's going to be a padding left of 15. This should do it. We'll double check. And then let's go ahead and save the changes, and let's full screen it. And if you look here, it should be good. We can double check with the developer tool. Yep, see, the min width 1200 now has overridden that rule. So padding left of 15 when it's at 1200 pixels or wider. And at that point, I think we've sort of solved it. So Bootstrap only gets you so far. Sometimes it can have little unintended side effects, things that you need to overcome. Just be careful. I find the best way to do it is to just add a separate class. And in this case, I just experimented with it, and I only applied it to the least amount. And so now we're ready to go to the next step. So the next step, and we should go back to see what mockup we're doing, is the next section. Okay, so this next section we're going to work on. We've already sort of created that particular section. We still want to style it up, but now we're ready to move to the next section, get the grid. It's just 2 columns. I'm thinking of making one be either a section or an article and the other being an aside, but both inside of a row. So if these two are to be grouped together thematically, this should be an article and that should be an aside. If they are not, this could just be a section and then this could be another section. It's up to you. So we go back to our grid, and let me adjust it. Okay, so now we're going to go back over to our code that's over here, and let me zoom in on it just a little bit. So we got a nice big view here. And this is going to be its own div. I'm going to give it a class of wrapper. Okay, so now we have 2 sort of sections, and if you look at it, it seems to me that this is probably not an article and an aside, but these are 2 separate sections. So I'm going to create 2 different sections. One is for news, and one is probably just for articles or something. I'm going to give this a class of row. Everything starts in the row, and then we're going to make a section. I'm going to make this small, and let's look at sort of our size here. Really, this sort of lines up with those columns there. So that's going to be a small 4. This is going to be double that, so that'll be a small 8. Small 8 on this section. Small 4, so that the 2 of those line up. And then we're going to add news to this so that we can style that appropriately. And so now we have our sections inside. We've created the grid. We go back here. Looks like we have another header, and we have some paragraphs, and we've got an image, sort of a thumbnail image that's being floated to the side. So let's just get some dummy text, drop it in, and some headers. And then it looks like these are smaller headers and smaller paragraphs. And it looks like each of these sort of follow the same pattern. So let's just drop a couple of divs here. And at the very bottom, there's like an RSS feed or something with a rounded bottom. So we're going to add its own little div there, and we'll give it a class of RSS. So we want to keep going back and forth to see what we got. So we're going to add our paragraphs in here. Okay, I found my Ipsum. I went to Filorama. And we're going to put some headers in here. We already have this header, headline, which was the header 2. And so I think a header 2 would be another good one to do. And I'm not sure what they have on there, so it looks like some kind of an article headline. And since that does look like an article, I'm going to make this not a section, but an article. And then I found my paragraphs from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Whoa, I did not intend to put that much in there. Sorry. I just wanted the first few paragraphs. It did it again. We'll stop at coconuts migrating.
I believe in the witch.
Got a little Monty Python there. Okay. That is about the number of paragraphs I was intending to do. Tab them over a little bit. Let's see how it looks now. We'll probably get rid of a couple paragraphs. The shorter ones tend to be okay. I'll leave it about like that. Okay, so that's the left-hand side on our news. Inside, it looks like we're going to have a series of one that says news and then header and a paragraph each. This should also be a header 2, news, and then we'll have a header 3. And then we'll just do a shorter paragraph, and we'll paste that in there. All right, we'll try one paragraph here. Small. Put a little dot, dot, dot. And we're just going to copy that and paste that a couple of times. And then we can go in and swap those out. So you'll notice what I did basically here is I have a section and it's news. This could have been an aside. And so underneath that, we have this article. So let me just collapse that for a moment so you can sort of see the two different tags that we're using. Let's see what it looks like at this point. Of course, we're going to want to mix up our headlines. But at this point, I think we're pretty good. And in our next step, we'll try to finish off the rest of the HTML. And once we have that, we will start adding our styles to make it look more like the mock-up that we have here with all the little background gradients and things like that. Stay tuned.